Hi everyone! On this episode of Coding with Kate, we are going to be taking a closer look at ICD-10-CM, our diagnosis code book. Now in a previous video, I have a link in the description. We looked at a diagnosis and went through using the code book, but this time I want to actually be looking at the book as we go through that so you can see how we navigate the book, how it's set up, and what everything looks like inside of there. So let's take a look at this book. So since we know our diagnosis to be acute suppurative peritonitis due to E. coli, we have already pinpointed that peritonitis is our main term. That is the infection or name of infection, the medical term that describes what the illness or ailment is. That is the term that we are going to be looking for in our index. So our index is found at the beginning of the book, and we want to go to P, peritonitis. Okay, so we have peritonitis right here. So we have peritonitis. Now we can either look for acute or suppurative. I thought ahead, and both take you to the same place, so we'll look for acute. So we look down under peritonitis to the subterm and we find acute, and that takes us to K65.0. So then we look along the top corners of the pages to look for K. So we found K. It's in this blue section. See K60, K64, K65, right down here. So it says diseases of peritoneum and retroperitoneum, K65 through K68. That is giving us the range of codes that cover diseases of the peritoneum and retroperitoneum. Our code from the index said K65.0, so we want to look at K65 peritonitis. And then it gives us this notation in red saying use additional code B95 through B97 to identify infectious agent. So that is telling us we need a second code to make this diagnosis complete. And if we look at our diagnosis, the infectious agent is E. coli, because it says due to E. coli. So we already know we have an infectious agent. We need to find the code for that. And then it also says excludes 1. If anything on this list is also in our medical report, we cannot use any codes from the K65 section. But we don't have any problems with that. So we can go down to K65.0 where it says generalized acute peritonitis. On this list, there's suppurative peritonitis acute, which is what our diagnosis said. So K65.0 looks like the code we need, but we will check the other codes within the K65 section just to make sure. So if we look at the rest of these, it says peritoneal abscess, spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, and a lot of other things that don't fall under our diagnosis. So we want to stick with K65.0. So in our little code diagram, K65.0. If you remember from the previous video, I said that not all 7 characters need to be filled in. And they didn't give us a notation that says we need a 7th character. So we get to leave all of those blank and just have K65.0. But now we need to go back to that notation that told us to go to B95 through B97 to get our infectious agent. So now we look at the sides of our pages and look for B. Since the first letter of these codes are all in alphabetical order, B will be near the beginning of the book. All right, B95, this is under the bacterial and viral infectious agent, B95 through B97. So B95 is Streptococcus, Staphylococcus, and Enterococcus as the cause of the diseases classified elsewhere. Nope, that's not what we want. So if we look at B96, other bacterial agents as the cause of diseases classified elsewhere, we want to look down under these subdiagnoses to look for E. coli. E. coli. And I will admit, I don't know how to pronounce the medical term, its full term for E. coli, but it says in the square brackets, E. coli, as the cause of diseases classified elsewhere. So to get more specific with that code, we can look down into more subcategories of E. coli and see if we can find a diagnosis that fits. B96.20, unspecified E. coli as the cause of diseases classified elsewhere, and OS, not otherwise specified. We didn't have anything else specific about E. coli listed in our diagnosis, so we can assume B96.20 is what we need, but we'll look down further and we'll see that all of these other ones have other information that don't match our diagnosis. And it continues up here, and none of these have what we need. So we can stick with B96.20 as our bacterial and viral infectious agent. And before we can go any further, we need to check and make sure of the sequencing. Now in the case section it said use additional, so that is one clue that the infectious agent, the B code, needs to come second. But I did notice at the top it says, note, these categories are provided for use of supplementary or additional codes to identify the infectious agents in diseases classified elsewhere. So that is telling me that the B codes, the B95 through B97, are supplemental, meaning they would go second. They should not be listed as the primary diagnosis or the principal diagnosis. So we know that our order of the peritonitis, case 65.0, will come first, and the B96.20, the unspecified E. coli as the cause of diseases classified elsewhere, will come second. And that is how we would code for acute suppurative peritonitis due to E. coli. So as you can see, ICD-10-CM diagnosis coding can be fairly easy, especially since they have the guidelines and the notations that tell you what to look for, what other information you need, sequencing directions, so you're putting the correct codes first, and that is why I truly love the setup of this code book. Now, this diagnosis was fairly easy. I will be doing more diagnosis videos that have some more diagnoses that are more complicated, and I will especially be covering diagnoses that give me trouble. So we will be doing some on sepsis and diabetes and some cardiac diagnoses. We're going to be covering all of those so I can work through my weaknesses, but then also to help all of these new fellow coders and student coders that may have the same difficulties as I do with diagnoses. But it's going to be fun. So subscribe to this channel if you want more updates on videos that are coming up, and post any comments you may have in the comments section. I would love to hear what you have to say. If you have any questions, if you have any ideas on other diagnoses that you'd love me to cover, I will research them and figure out the correct way to code them and make a video just for you. So I will see y'all later. Bye!